Hello, and welcome to Rethinking Our History, where we seek to shed a light on events that have been forgotten and covered up, and to make us all question how much do we really know about our history? I'm Felicia.
And I'm Ian, and we are here to reveal all the sordid details of history that have been swept under the rug. Get ready to get angry, be curious, and maybe have a laugh or two as we rethink our history.
Hello, friends.
Hey guys.
Thanks for joining us for another lesson, number 80. We are back this week with a story many people have heard about. It is one of the most talked about survival stories and stories of survival cannibalism.
Oh boy.
Yum. This is also going to be a two-parter because it's kind of a long one. There's also a lot of people's names in this. Don't worry about trying to remember anybody. You'll remember like the main characters.
Right.
So, there are many things that went wrong for the Donner family and others in the caravan from the very beginning of their trip.
Oh boy.
Yes, we are going to be talking about the Donner Party.
Nice.
This would lead to the group being stranded in the Sierra Nevada mountains for a number of months during the winter before they could be rescued. All of this was caused by Westward Expansion and Manifest Destiny. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. It's gross. It's like this white mythology that they were sent here by their Christian god to run the evil pagan natives off the land. It's gross.
Right.
Though California was part of Mexico at the time, the government there still wanted people to come out west and offered hefty land grants to people willing to make the trip. Most wagons took the Oregon Trail, and if you're an elder millennial or Gen X, you will know it didn't turn out well for a lot of people.
Dysentery.
You have died of dysentery.
Everyone dies.
But it was the safest way to get to the West Coast, although it still took 4 to 6 months to complete.
I like the new Oregon Trail. It's like zombies. So like it's like Oregon Trail, like your internal organs,
not Oregon. Yeah.
They made a good spin on it. It's pretty cool.
Then comes in Langsford Hastings. Hastings was an immigrant from Ohio who had traveled out west earlier. He published a book titled The Immigrant's Guide to Oregon and California. Quote, as an alternative to the Oregon Trail standard route through Idaho's Snake River Plain, he proposed a more direct route which actually increased the trip's mileage by 125 miles to California across the Great Basin, which would take travelers through the Wasatch Range and across the Great Salt Lake Desert, end quote.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Wouldn't want to go through the desert in a wagon.
You don't. You really, really don't. Now, this is not a well-traveled route at the time, and even Hastings had only once traveled a portion of it in 1846. He traveled to Fort Bridger, a supply station ran by Jim Bridger, where he would attempt to get travelers to follow his new path. One of the most important parts of this journey was the timing. It was important to leave late enough in the spring to avoid deep mud from rain and snow runoff, while leaving early enough in the year to avoid the massive snow that would fall in the mountains starting in September. This was mainly important due to passage through the Sierra Nevada mountains. These mountains are young in comparison to our own, believed to have started to uplift around 5 million years ago. Young in comparison to ours.
Right.
When you're talking about 400 million years versus 5 million. It's like a 5-year-old and a 40-year-old.
Yeah.
But that just makes them really fucking big right now.
Right.
And it blew my mind that the older mountains are, the smaller they are, because like erosion,
Yep.
you know, nature has had time to ruin mountain. I wouldn't say ruin, humans ruin the mountains, but you know what I mean.
Sure.
This range runs 400 miles or 640 kilometers from north to south, with the widest part being 80 miles or 130 kilometers from east to west.
There's like a big debate about like mountain climbers ruining mountains. Like if you put bolts in it and stuff like that, is that like helping, you know, not necessarily pollute the mountain, but like ruining it?
I think, well, yeah, I mean, it could after a while because you're going to get water.
Also, you know, a free climber doesn't want those kind of things
No.
up.
I feel like if it's like one route, if you have one route going up the side of the mountain that everybody uses that one route,
Right.
then that's fine. But if you have everybody's putting their own route up the side of the mountain and leaving their bolts, then we have a problem.
Right.
You really need to stop, because if you think about water over time is going to erode around those bolts.
Yep.
And it could lead to cracks forming. And y'all never fucking watch Ice Age and Scrat with his fucking nut? Come on, people.
Yeah, it's a big debate.
All right, listen to this. There are over 500 peaks that are over 12,000 feet, with Mount Whitney being the tallest at 4,505 feet.
I want to say there's a lot of routes up Mount Whitney.
Not 4,000, 14,505 feet, or 4,421 kilometers.
Jeez. I want to say I just watched a video about Mount Whitney. It was what the hell is his name with Fish TV? There's this trip dude. He like goes on these like crazy hike trips.
That is the widest thing you've ever said. Oh, who's that guy from Fish TV?
Yeah. He's like Fish TV. It's crap. It's not Mr. India.
You need to send that to
later.
Your brother-in-law who's trying to learn how to fish.
Oh no, it's not that type of Fish TV.
Never mind. At this height, and with the added benefit of their position to the Pacific Ocean, this range receives the most snow out of all mountain ranges in North America. So we need to go there for Christmas.
Be kind of cool.
In the spring of
a lot of good hikes over there in that area.
In the spring of 1846, a wagon train of almost 500 left Independence headed west, Missouri. At the back of the train was a group of 9 wagons hauling 32 members of the Reed and Donner families and their employees who had left on May 12th. George Donner was a 60-year-old man from Springfield, Illinois, who brought along his 44-year-old wife, Tamsin, their daughter, Frances, who was 6, Georgia, who was 4, and Eliza, who was 3. George also brought along his 2 older daughters from a previous marriage, Aletha, who was 14, and Leanne, who was 12.
They didn't wear those clothes going up the mountain, did they?
Yeah.
They did?
Yeah.
Those same clothes that the picture of them is?
What else were they going to wear? It was the 1840s, bro.
I don't know.
Women
it just
didn't
looks
wear
like
pants.
They're like dinner clothes. But
yeah, that's how fucking that's what people did.
All right then.
Joining them was George's younger brother, 56-year-old Jacob, and his wife Elizabeth, who was 45. Elizabeth's 2 older children, Solomon and William Hook, 14 and 12 respectively, also joined them, as did the 5 children they shared. George, who was 9, Mary, who was 7, Isaac, who was 6, Lewis, who was 4, and Samuel, who was 1. I'm not even halfway through the names. Like I said, it's a lot of people.
Right.
The brothers had employed a group of teamsters to help them with the journey. Hiram O. Miller, 49, Samuel Shoemaker, 25, Na Jones. Was his name really Na Jones, or was that a foobar on my part?
I don't know.
Maybe Nate Jones? Nate Jones would make more sense. 16, Charles Berger, 30, John Denton, 28, and Augustus Spitzer, 30. Augustus.
Augusta.
The Reed party included James Reed, who was 45, his wife Margaret, 32, her daughter Virginia, who was 13, their daughter Martha Jane, who they called Patty, and was 8. Where do you get Patty from Martha Jane? Okay. Their 2 sons, James and Thomas, 5 and 3 respectively, and Margaret's mother, Sarah Keyes. Excuse me. Sadly, Sarah was already in the final stages of tuberculosis and would die at a campsite that they named Alcove Springs. She was buried nearby off the side of the trail with a rock inscribed with her name and date of death. Did you hear that tuberculosis is making a comeback?
No.
People are getting consumption again because they won't fucking get vaccinated.
Oh boy.
Come on, guys. Assisting the Reed family were 3 Teamsters: Milford Milt Elliott, 28, James Smith, 25, Walter Heron, 25. Bayless Williams, 24, joined the family as a handyman, and his 25-year-old sister Eliza worked as the family cook. About a week after leaving Independence, the families joined a group of 50 wagons led by William H. Russell. By June 16th, they were within 200 miles or 320 kilometers of Fort Laramie, having traveled 450 miles or 720 kilometers at this point.
Wow, that's a long ways.
In a fucking wagon, bro.
Right.
A wagon. I would not have survived. While they had been delayed by rain and a flooding river, it seemed most of the trouble was behind them. Along the way, a number of people joined the wagon train. Lavina Murphy, who is a 37-year-old widow from Tennessee, had joined the train with her family of 13. Her 5 younger children were John Landrum, 16, Miriam, who they called Mary, 14, Lemuel, 12, William, 10, and Simon, 8. Her family also included her 2 older daughters and their families. Her oldest daughter was Sarah Murphy Foster, 19. Her husband, William M., was 30, and they had 1 son, Jeremiah George, who was 1. Her other daughter was Harriet Murphy Pike, 18, and her husband, William M., 32, and their 2 daughters, Naomi, who was 3, and Catherine, who was 1. And we're going to ignore those ages and just move right along. I was going, wait, 18 and 30. Moving along. It was a different time.
Right.
William H. Eddy, 28, joined the train with his wife, Eleanor, 25, and their 2 kids, James, 3, and Margaret, 1. The Breen family joined as well. Patrick, who was 51. Margaret, who they called Peggy, was 40, and their 7 children, John, 14, Patrick Jr., 9, Simon, 8, James, 5, Peter, 3, and Isabella, who was 11 months old.
So many kids, man.
So many fucking children.
The big one's watching the little one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Everybody was parentified back then.
Right.
I gotta find me something. There's a fucking gnat flying around in here, and I don't want to have my drink. Joining the Breen family was their neighbor, 40-year-old Patrick Dolan. Louis Kessberg, who was 32, and his family joined the train as well. His wife Elizabeth, who was 22, their daughter Ada, who was 2, and their son Louis Jr., who would be born along the trail.
Right.
Can you imagine fucking giving birth on the Oregon Trail?
Yeah.
Horrifying.
Just cook the placenta.
I mean, they probably fucking wish they would have it later in this ordeal, okay? Right. Rounding out the ragtag band of misfits that will star in this story were 2 young men named Spitzer and Reinhardt, who traveled with an allegedly wealthy German couple, the Wolffingers. They had a driver, Dutch Charlie Berger. Are you laughing about the Wolffingers?
Yeah.
Why are you laughing about the Wolffingers?
Because I have a dirty mind.
You do, because all I thought of was Goldfinger from
James Bond.
No, Littlefinger.
Oh, from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
They
Yeah,
also had
little wolf finger.
they also had an older man who rode with them named Hardcoop. Joining the Daughter family at Little Sandy River was Luke Halloran, a young man suffering from tuberculosis. He was no longer able to ride horseback, and the family he was with no longer had the resources to care for him.
Mm.
To
Well,
make hmm?
well,
Sorry, kid, you got to go.
it's just a party of like many misfortunes.
It was the 1800s of it all, as Morbid likes to say.
Right.
To make sure the word got out about his new route, Hastings sent riders out to deliver letters to travelers. The Donners and Reeds got one on July 12th. He told them to tell the travelers that Mexican authorities in California may be opposed to their travel and that they should go together in large groups. He told them he would be waiting to guide the travelers at Fort Bridger. The wagon train had arrived at Little Sandy River, and on July 20th, most of the train decided to follow the established trail through Fort Hall. The smaller group decided to try the new route, but first they felt they needed a leader. The obvious choice would have been James Reed with his military experience, but his attitude was another thing entirely, and people literally fucking hated the man until the end of this story, and then everybody's gonna fucking love the man.
Right.
Remember James Reed? He's a dick,
Yeah.
but he ends up being a fucking hero too. So
Sure.
George Donner, however, was seen as mature, peaceful, and charitable, and became the group's first choice. And George is a cool guy, so not a problem with that. A journalist attempted to warn the party. Edwin Bryant had arrived at Black's Fork a week ahead of the group. What he saw on the first part of the trail left him concerned about how difficult it would be to take wagons through, especially hauling women and children. He returned to Black's Fork and left letters for the travelers warning them not to take Hastings Cutoff. However, by the time the group arrived, he had already left as had Hastings, who was leading a 40 wagon train through the cutoff already.
Mm.
Knowing that the Oregon Trail was slowly killing business, Jim Bridger wanted people to take this new trail, so he told the party that the road was a smooth trip with no hostile environments or Native Americans.
Right.
He also claimed the route would cut off 350 miles or 560 kilometers off their journey. He lied. It adds 125 miles.
Wow.
To round off his lies, he also claimed they would be able to find fresh water with the exception of a 30 to 40 mile or 48 to 64 kilometer crossing of a dry lake bed. Just a little crossing across a dry lake bed. Motherfucker. It is a lot more than 30, 40 miles across the Great Salt Lake Basin.
Right.
Reed felt that Bridger had given them good information and advocated for taking Hastings Cutoff. It is believed by many that Bridger knowingly withheld the letters that Bryant had left for the travelers.
So they didn't get them.
Mm-mm. So he withheld the letters and then lied. However, Reed knew how dangerous the cutoff really was. When they were in Fort Laramie, Reed ran into an old friend, James Clayman. James was traveling from California and warned Reed not to take the cutoff. He told him that wagons would not be able to make the trip and that Hastings was wrong. Nonetheless, the party left Black Forks after 4 days of rest and repairs. They were 11 days behind Hastings and the party he was leading. George hired a new driver, and the group was joined by William McCutcheon, 30, his wife Amanda, 24, and their 2-year-old daughter Harriet. A 16-year-old from New Mexico named Jean Baptiste Trudeau was also joined the group, claiming to have knowledge of the local native tribes and the terrain along the way. The party turned south, and within days, they learned that Bridger had lied to them. While years of travel had left the Oregon Trail smooth and easy to find, there had not been much traffic through this area, making it hard to find. Plus, the trail was much steeper than anyone had claimed. Their trail was marked by written directions Hastings left pinned on trees.
Uh,
Motherfucker, what? This is not Naked and Afraid. Are you kidding me? On August 6th, the letter they found told them to stop and wait for him to return so he could show them a different path than the one he was currently on. Reed, Charles T. Stanton, and William Pike rode ahead to get Hastings. Along the way, they rode through canyons where they had to stop and move boulders and walls that were cut close to the edge of the trail, a route that wagons could not go through. Though Hastings had offered to guide the party, he only rode back part of the way and gave them a vague direction to head into. He said, "Go that way,
Maybe over there.
go that way over there. Yeah, that's that way, over there."
That's
I've heard.
horrible. Sounds like Waynesville directions.
I mean, at least with Waynesville directions, they use landmarks.
Yeah.
You go on down over there to that one house where that one guy got shot, and then you take a left, and then you go down till you see the cows. Like, we got rocks and trees and shit we can point out with.
Go about halfway around the lake.
Pretty much. Well, how long's the lake? I don't know. Stanton and Pike stopped to rest while Reed headed back to the party alone. Without their promised guide, they had a choice to make. They could turn around and head back to the traditional trail. They could follow the tracks left by Hastings and the first group through Weber Canyon, or they could go ahead in the new directions Hastings gave them. Reed pushed for them to take the new route, and so the group set out. Their travel slowed to 1.5 miles or 2.4 kilometers a day.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's real fucking slow. Any able bodied man was required to work through the day clearing brush, felling trees, and moving boulders to make way for the wagons. Oh, hang on. Burp incoming. As the party made its way across the Wasatch Range of the Rocky Mountains, the Graves family reached them after starting off later on their own. This included Franklin Ward Graves, 57, his wife Elizabeth, 45, their children Mary, 20, William, 18, Eleanor, 15, Lovina, 13, Nancy, 9, Jonathan, 7, Franklin Jr., 5, Elizabeth, 1, and their married daughter, Sarah, who was 22, and her husband, 23-year-old Jay Fostick. They also brought John Schneider, a 25-year-old teamster. This group joining the party brought the total number of people in the Donner Party to 87,
Wow.
with 60 to 80 wagons.
That's a lot of wagons.
So many fucking wagons. The new arrivals were part of the last group to leave Missouri that year, meaning the Donner Party was now towards the back of this year's western migration. It took them 2 weeks to get where they could see the Great Salt Lake from the mountain, then another 2 weeks for them to finally get out of the Wasatch Range. It was around this time that arguments began to break out between the men who were questioning the wisdom of those who had chosen to take this route, Reed in particular. Some of the poorer families began to run out of food, and having gotten lost on the trail trying to find their way back, Stanton and Pike were a day away from eating their horses when the family found them, or when the
Oh,
party
boy.
found them. Listen, people ate their fucking horses, okay? You do what you gotta do.
Yeah, then you gotta walk, though.
Yeah, it's true. Luke Halloran died of tuberculosis on August 25th. A few days later, the party came across a letter from Hastings, or what was left of it. It let them know they would have a 2-day journey. A 2-day journey. A 2-day journey.
On a cruise ship.
I know, I was like, 3-hour tour. A 2-day journey through an area with little water or grass.
Hmm.
They rested for about a day and a half before setting across a 1,000-foot or 300-meter mountain. At the top of the mountain, they caught sight of a desert of salt, larger than the one they had just crossed, and according to Rarick, quote, one of the most inhospitable places on earth, end quote.
Mm.
On August 30th, they set off across the lake bed. During the day, moisture underneath the salt would rise to the surface, creating a sticky mess that trapped wagon wheels, some of them up to the hubs.
Ooh.
And at night, temperatures would drop to freezing.
Wow.
Many of the group began to see mirages of lakes and wagons, and they believed they had overtaken Hastings. 3 days into their journey across the desert, their water ran out, and some people removed their oxen from the wagons to go forward and search for more.
Mm.
Some of the animals were so far gone that they were abandoned. 9 of the 10 oxen Reed had brought with him broke free and ran off into the desert in search of water. Many other families lost horses and cattle along the way, and some of the wagons were damaged beyond repair. Thankfully, no humans died in this part of the journey, but the trip that they were told would only take 2 days to cross 40 miles or 64 kilometers took 64 days. Not 64 days. Jesus Christ. Could you fucking imagine? Took 6 days and was a distance of 80 miles or 130 kilometers.
Whew. It's a lot of
Yeah.
desert.
80 miles of
Mm.
desert. Are you fucking kidding me? At this point, no one in the party had any faith in the rest of the trail. They spent several days at the springs on the opposite side of the desert, attempting to find their cattle, bring in the wagons left in the desert, and move food and supplies to other wagons. Taking the biggest hit in provisions, Reed became even more demanding, asking the families to give him an inventory of their food and supplies. He also suggested 2 men go ahead to Sutter's Fort in California and ask for help getting more provisions.
Right.
Charles Stanton and William McCutcheon offered to go to the fort. The rest of the wagons were then pulled by mishmash teams of oxen and mules. 2 young men who had went out to search for cattle returned to report that there was another 40 miles or 64 kilometers of desert to cross.
Jeez. So they weren't even all the way through it.
Mm-mm. Their next desert trek was not as dramatic, and the group came through relatively unscathed. Though the group had no faith or trust in Hastings, they really had no choice but to follow his tracks, which were weeks old at this point.
Hmm.
On September 26th, 2 months after they left, the family finally rejoined the traditional trail. They rejoined the traditional trail.
They took a way crazy
Detour.
detour. You can't call it a shortcut.
Can't call it a shortcut because it wasn't shorter. It was much fucking longer. In October, there was an altercation between 2 men in the party. After the group had broken off from the main trail again, why? 2 of the wagons became tangled together. John Schneider began to beat one of the oxen, which had Reed step in to try and stop him. However, Schneider began to beat Reed in the head with a whip handle, which prompted Reed's wife to try to intervene.
Right.
She was punched by Schneider,
Jeez.
which enraged Reed, who ended up stabbing Schneider to death.
All right.
Which honestly, like, props.
Right.
Props for defending your wife. I ain't even mad at you. That night, the party gathered to decide what to do with Reed. Laws did not exist west of the Continental Divide, and it was up to the group to dispense their own justice. People had seen Schneider strike Reed first, and some also claimed to have seen Schneider hit his wife as well. But Schneider had been well liked, whereas Reed was not. Some suggested Reed should be hanged, but in the end, he was allowed to leave the group alone. He set out the next morning with no provisions or weapons, but later that day, his stepdaughter Virginia rode ahead to give him a rifle and food.
Yeah, I mean, you can't travel the frontier without a rifle.
No, you really can't. The group slowly started to drift apart into smaller groups. Everyone was becoming distrustful and wary of the other groups. The animals were getting weaker as grass was becoming scarce, so the group decided to walk to lighten their load. Kessberg made Hardcoop get out of his wagon and walk, telling him to walk or die. A few days later, with his feet swollen, cracked, and bleeding, Hardcoop sat down beside a stream and was never seen again.
Hmm.
Reed made his way to the Donner family, who was ahead of the rest of the group, and teamed up with Walter Heron. They took one horse and were able to cover 25 to 40 miles or 40 to 64 kilometers a day. The rest of the party caught up with the Donners, but it was hard going for the group. Natives chased away some of their horses, and they were forced to abandon another wagon. With little grass, the cattle had to be spread out over a larger area, allowing natives to come and take 18 of them. A few days later, they shot and killed another 21. At this point, the party had lost almost 100 oxen and cattle and were at the end of their food. Wolfhanger decided to stop at the Humboldt sink to bury his wagon. Reinhardt and Spitzer stayed behind to help him, but when they returned to the group, Wolfhanger was not with them. They claimed they were attacked by natives and he was killed.
Hmm.
At this point, the Eddies were on foot and without food, but none of the other families were willing to feed the children.
All right. No food for you guys.
Margaret Reed and her children were also forced to walk at this point as well. Thankfully, they were out of the desert soon and into lush countryside.
Hmm.
However, they could not rest long and set out to try and get through the Sierra Nevada mountain range before the snow hit. One of the men who had left earlier, Stanton, found the group and returned with mules and food from Sutter's Fort. Along with him, he brought two native guys, Miwok men, from the Cosamines River area who were known only by their white names, Luis and Salvador. Stanton also informed the group that though they had been in rough shape and starving, Reed and Heron had also made their way to Sutter's Fort. For the group, it seemed that their troubles were behind them, but in reality, the worst was yet to come.
Right.
And this is where we're going to leave you this week, folks.
Wow.
So, what do you think so far, Bill?
It's pretty rough, like just existing back then.
I love the thought of taking a road trip across country for 3 or 4 days. 4 to 6 months.
Right.
4 to 6 months in a motherfucking wagon.
Yeah.
Like, you ain't got a radio, you ain't got a cell phone, you ain't got a TV, you ain't got shit.
Gotta start a fire every day.
You might have a book. There ain't no fast food. There ain't a McDonald's or a Waffle House or a Food Line or Ingles or a Walmart. Like,
Good to see the land, though.
not cut out for it, I don't think. Seeing the land would be kind of cool, but man, I'd get tired of it after about a week, I think.
Right.
I really, really would.
They just keep on walking.
Just keep on walking. And then you got to start going up this mountain. Lord have mercy. I could never.
Right.
I'm not built for that life.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. All right, friends. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. We hope you guys have a good week, and we will see you guys later.
Be kind to each other.
Love you. Bye.
Love you guys. Bye.